All right, Jastin, A through Z.
M as in mother.
Okay. So we got a huge list of here. So M, we got Dame Maggie Smith passed away. People may know her from Sister Act, or being Professor McGonagall, or in what is it, that the Downton Abbey. She was also the witch in Robin Hood. So many things. But she passed away. No, it sucks. She's been doing this for a while, mainly theater, but we all know her. We all love her. But she passed away.
Yeah, I think she was 89, if I remember right. I actually thought she was older than that.
That's because she's British. The British just look older. That's what happens when you try colonizing the world so much. You kind of age a little fast.
Sure, yeah.
But also keeping with the M theme, Dikembe Mutombo died.
Sad about that one.
NBA legend.
He was awesome.
It really kind of sucks for him though, because back in December he did an ad that was like, "Hey guys, go get vaccinated, protect people," and of course Rob Schneider, because he's just a great human being, came out after he died and was like, "Hey guys, I'm not saying it's because he got vaccinated, but I am." Even though the man passed away from brain cancer. From fucking brain cancer, guys. So you know why he's telling people to get vaccinated? Because he had brain cancer and a weakened immune system. And if he got COVID, he probably would have died sooner. So he was actually, doing a good thing. And he's 58. But Rob Schneider's a ghoul. So, whatever.
He's gone off the rails. I mean, he's been off the rails for a while.
More accurate,
I guess is what I should say. Yeah. I even remember, because his daughter is a singer, Elle King. And even she was like, I don't really have a relationship with my dad because I just don't agree with anything that he says, pretty much.
Yeah, because she's like, yeah, my dad's a huge piece of shit. So I don't talk to him much. And I get it. But yeah, so that's a thing. Chris Christopherson died. Whistler from the Blade trilogy. He died. I mean, it's one of those things. He was a very, very complex man. I mean, country music legend, songwriting legend, acting legend, military veteran. Also insanely anti-war leftist. Just, I mean, if you ever wanted to see somebody that almost should have been the poster child for instituting some communist ideas in the country, it's almost him. That guy hated everything that like modern country is all about. He hated it all. He hated with a passion, a fiery passion. He hated Trump. Hated him. And I'm not even talking about even the man, just everything he stood for, with the whole idea of just the idea of blind and unbridled patriotism. He's like, oh no, that's destructive. He's like, that's horrible. You should never just be that blindly obedient to an idea like that of this, so many things, and it's really absurd. Gotten a dust up with Toby Keith at one of Willie Nelson's birthdays, because they were doing a concert thing, because that's what they do. And Toby Keith was like, "Hey, none of that liberal shit tonight." And Chris Christopherson's like, "Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? I have actually fought in a war, and 2, it's Willie Nelson's fucking birthday. What the fuck are you saying? Because if you don't think Willie's on that leftist shit too, get out of here." So, yeah. And it's real funny because Toby Keith afterwards was like, "Oh, yeah, that never happened." And Chris Christopherson, because he is a nice guy, was like, "Oh, I don't remember." His wife, though, was like, "Oh, it fucking happened." So, that's fun. Love that shit. Oh God, unfortunately so many people fucking passed away. Oh God, why can I not think of this other guy's name? He played Mr. McDowell in Coming to America.
Yes, him.
John Amos.
Yes, Amos.
Yes, he passed away.
Oh, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Die Hard 2, Good Times, Coming to America. The Righteous Gemstones, he was on fairly recently. Yeah, he passed away. That guy was fantastic too. Yeah, I mean, to me, unfortunately, he will always just be Mr. McDowell. Because the first thing I have any memory of him in is Coming to America, and having bad parents letting a small child watch Coming to America. So he's just in my formative years. I'm just, just starting to being able to remember things and all this other stuff. I'm like a baby. I'm like 3 or 4. And I'm watching Coming to America. So the man's just stuck in my head as Coming to America. I mean, it is what it is. I can't help it. But yes, he passed away too. Did anybody else pass away? Am I missing someone?
The legend. The legend of legends. With the voice. Simba.
We talked about James Earl Jones dying.
Oh, did we say that?
That was 3 episodes ago. Yeah, we did him.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Somehow I didn't think you had said him yet.
Also coming from America. I didn't talk about him today, but I have talked about him on a previous episode. That James Earl Jones passed away. Okay.
I thought for some reason that happened after our last recording. Okay.
No.
Got it.
No. Which also Coming to America. So many people from Coming to America are going to pass away.
There's just so many people in such a short span of time that passed away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was so many, so fast. But so in non-people recently dying news, Diddy's getting served with approximately 120 different lawsuits for all the various things he did. So that's insane, because that's 120 lawsuits. And some of them, get this, some of them actually have things like toxicology reports and all these other things, because some of them went to the police and went to the doctors and got rape kits and all these other things, and they just got blown off. And now they're like, oh, hey, but we have this evidence, because it's evidence. And apparently so many people were doing these things and or like going and like being like, hey, this happened to me and all this other stuff, were drugged with horse tranquilizers.
And when I heard that, I was like, horse tranquilizer?
That's ketamine. More specifically.
I was like,
that is Special K. That is also what killed Matthew Perry. Now, not to say that there isn't legitimate medical uses for horse tranquilizers in humans. There is like small, way small doses. You know, there are medical applications for people, but also it's horse tranquilizer and makes people zombies. Because you know why? We're way fucking smaller than horses. I don't know if you guys knew this. People are way smaller than horses. So, yeah. Real fucked. But, yeah, that's, we're going to hear a lot of crazy shit coming up, guys. This really is kind of the beginning of it. So much more is going to come out. Because it kind of has to. Diddy couldn't have been doing this all by himself. There's other people. There's other people there's probably people we know and love.
Yep. There will be.
And there's probably people we hate.
And I don't think I'm ready for it.
Oh, I'm ready for the ones I hate, though. Oh, God. I am so hoping Ashton Kutcher goes down for this. God, I want Ashton Kutcher to go down for this so fucking bad. Like, I mean, I kind of wished he wasn't like a sexual predator and done things to people. That part sucks. But he's a garbage human being that defends garbage people. And he needs to actually pay some consequences. So I really hope he gets in a lot of trouble for this. That'd just brighten my day. Him and his wife. I don't like his wife either. She's a garbage human being. Her being in the next Rian Johnson, Knives Out saga movie really kind of makes me sad because she's a garbage human being. If anybody wants to know why I think she's a garbage human being, when Danny Masterson was convicted, I'm not even talking about just being accused of, was convicted, so legally culpable, as in the eyes of the law, it is considered fact of sexually assaulting and raping women. She wrote a letter to the judge going, "Hey, judge, take it easy on him. He's a nice guy. And he really shouldn't be, held accountable for raping women." Yes, her and Ashton Kutcher both, Kutcher did that. Because they're scumbags. So, and this isn't one of those things where you're like, oh, they were young, whatever. Nope, this was like 2 years ago. So, fuck them. Yeah. Yeah. And Ashton Kutcher and Diddy were like best friends. The best of friends. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's on a couple, 2-3 of those videotapes. That's for damn sure. But anyway, we'll move on. I'll move on. One of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I think it ties into this very well. Because of the amount of information we're probably going to be getting soon about people probably engaged in various acts of having done things at a Diddy party. I mean, and when it comes to those types of things and the idea of cancel culture and, people being legally held accountable and all these different things, what is your guys' actual position on when some of these people should be able to have a career? Because some of the stuff that's been going on with all of this, it kind of made me think of Jonathan Major. And, with what happened to him, he, top of the world. accused of horrible things, accused someone else of horrible things. The truth ended up kind of being in the middle. He got convicted. Some of the other accusations, I don't know if they're still being investigated or what, but nobody talks about those anymore, so it's really hard to find information on all that shit of it. But then there's the actual court case and what he actually got in trouble for. And that's done. He was convicted. He's done. But still, ultimately, within the court case, like I said, the truth kind of ended up being in the middle. From what we can tell and what the court was able to tell and all these other things, he didn't just judiciously beat the fuck out of this woman. You know, he did put hands on her. He did do physical things to her. There was a physical altercation. And she did some things to him, and he did some things to her. But none of it rose to the degree of what both of them were accusing the other one of doing. She's like, he beat the fuck out of me, bloody ear, all this other shit. There's kind of video evidence that shows that might not have been the case. But there was evidence that he did push her and cause her to hurt her hand and all these other things. And, you know, he's like, oh, she was just like beating the fuck out of me in the cab and like, and all this other stuff. And the cab driver kind of backed that up. But then also there's really no physical evidence that he was really that hurt. Like he was that, you know, actually beat. So, like I said, the truth ended up kind of being in the middle. So, like, using him as an example, I guess what I'm asking is, like, what would he need to do in your eyes for you to, like, want or be okay or feel comfortable, however you want to word it yourself or think of it yourself, to go see a Jonathan Major movie now? Or is there anything? Because that's also, I guess, a very legitimate answer, too, that there's nothing. You know, that's fair, too, if that's your opinion. I'm just asking to you guys, like, what is something like that would maybe, like where in your own mind would be okay with, like, him being redeemed or working on redemption or whatever, how you know. I think you guys understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like there's not really a set standard because it really depends on what the issue was or what it was that they were in trouble for. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like the thing I think of most, especially when we're talking about like Jonathan Majors and stuff like that, is what I used to think before recently is similar to like the Shia LaBeouf thing, right? Where like he did a bunch of things, but then he owned up to it and he apologized for it. And he's like, listen, I admit that I did these things and I'm trying to change and be better. And then for a little bit, it seemed like he was getting his act together and he actually was trying to prove that he meant that and was trying to be better. More recently, it feels like perhaps that wasn't true, or even if it was true at some point, maybe it's not anymore. But, you know, and I feel like I think it just depends a lot on, like, is it like a repeated pattern? At least for me personally, like it would be hard for me to watch, like, same thing with, like, I think about like a Steven Seagal type thing, right? Where it's like, you know, that was a continued behavior and things like that. And so that makes it hard for me to ever want to watch anything that he's ever done again. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like it's tricky because there's so many different, like, ways you could think about it depending on what the severity of it was, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I want to think more on my thoughts of it, but like, I don't know, Jastin or Sterling, if you have something on it, you know what I mean? Like, let me know. But it's a tough question because it's like, you don't want to be in any way condoning, even if it's one-off stuff like that. Like, you don't really want to condone that ever, you know, but does it take away from, and should it take away from, my viewing of them in movies or whatever? That's a tough question. I don't know.
What about you, Jastin?
Well, I agree, Heather. I think that is a very difficult question, and a lot of that might just depend on a case by case basis of just what was done and then how the person um and then what the person is doing afterwards. Or do they seem remorseful about this? Are they changing behaviors? Are they showing that they have rehabilitated in some way from this? Like, I think if you're a person who says you believe in rehabilitation and you believe that in second chances and you believe that a person can um if you believe that those things are possible, then I think it goes against that to just kind of blanket everybody as, well, they should never work again for this thing, for these transgressions that they had or these things that they did. It all kind of depends on the severity of it and the person. Now, if there's a person who's like never owns up to it and is not taking any kind of responsibility, that feels a lot different than somebody who maybe did take responsibility or said, I did do some things, but it wasn't what everybody thought it was, or it was a lapsed moment of judgment in a heat of anger, or whatever the case. It's just so hard to come on here with a blanket thing and say, yes, this person should be canceled or not canceled. I think it all depends on how a person reacts. But what I'm leaning towards is I do feel that I am a person that believes that a person can be rehabilitated, that a person can um, admit that they're wrong and change. And I feel like if I truly believe in that, then there has to be some place in me that is willing to give a person a chance to do that. There has to be a place in me that is willing to say this person should at least deserve a chance to see if they can do that, you know? And if I believe those things, then then perhaps there is a day where I could watch that person's movies and not feel like I'm condoning something or I'm allowing this. I think that that's another part of it too. If I truly believe those things, then I have to be able to show that in my actions as well. If I'm never forgiving of anyone, if I'm always just focusing on the dirt of everyone, and I'm always just so quick to be so judgmental, then do I really believe in those things? Do I really believe that a person can change? Do I really believe that a person deserves a second chance? Do I really believe that a person can rehabilitate themselves? And then it extends to me. If I fuck up, do I deserve a second chance? I'm not giving anybody else one. So maybe I don't deserve one either, so I don't know. I feel like you got to be careful. I'm one of those people, and I know people are different. Honestly, a lot of people are different, but I don't like putting people, putting ideas, putting things into these boxes. And I feel like a lot of times that's what we as people do. We put a person in a box and say, because they did this, they are only this. Or we say, because you watch this movie, that means you condone this. Not necessarily. At the end of the day, it's a movie. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily define the person. The person who watches it is not really defined by anything because they watch it. Really, it's just, you can just watch it and be pure entertainment, and that's it. You can watch a movie to study it. You can watch a movie to, they're like, I don't like putting myself or other people in these boxes and saying that there is nothing that they can be except what this box or this label that I put them in. I don't want to be looked at that way. And I try not to do that to other people.
Yeah, and I think like that's something I think is a big key factor is what is their state of mind as far as like what do they do after the fact? Like we've talked recently about
Yeah.
certain actors here, like for example, Casey Affleck, where it's like he like when you seem not remorseful at all and you just chalk it up to, yeah, you know, it was a bad time and I'm trying to move on from it. Like when you chalk it up to that and you don't really like address it as something that was wrong when it clearly is, something like that also affects me like wanting to support a movie of somebody who is going to be like that's their behavior and that's their way of thinking. And it can also, and kind of similar to the Beetlejuice sequel, where it's like it can also affect how much it can take you out of a movie if you can't enjoy it for the fact of who this person or the actions of this person outside of just this character they're playing. So yeah, I think a lot of it does depend a lot on like severity and not to trivialize anything. You know what I'm saying? But I just mean like, I don't know. It's that plus the, are they actually wanting to own up to it and change? There are factors that go into it, but I mean, I'm certainly not somebody that would ever like, I would never want somebody to only remember me or judge me for my worst things. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily also mean that you have to support, like give money to them for the work that they do if you don't support the things they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's why it's just such a hard thing to talk about because I think it's just like with anything with a person, it all depends on perspective. And and it's just hard because like the truth is we'll never completely have the truth. We don't we won't ever 100% know these people. You know, it's it's one of those things where there's no way you will never know 100% all the facts, all of a person, all of the factors that are at play. So, how emotional should one get about these things that really you don't know the full extent of all of it? You'll never really know the the truth of all of it. So I guess really it just comes back to the individual person and your truth. You know, what does your willingness to forgive, to cancel this, that, and the other? I think it all comes back to the individual person, you know. And I just and I'm not going to tell anybody the right or wrong of it because you know all of these different things are so different. Some of these acts are different. The perspectives are so different, but I will say that I do like it when somebody really tries. Like when everything happened with Michael Vick. I felt like afterward he really tried. You know, after all that stuff came out with the dogs and everything like that, he seemed remorseful about it. He gave to programs that helped animals and things like that. He wasn't afraid to go onto media things and talk about what happened and what he did and his understanding of how the public looks at him and everything. And after a lot of that, he did win his way back onto, you know, now he is a guest on shows. He, you know, has had documentaries and things done about him since then. And, you know, he was able to come back and is looked at differently, not by everyone. There are still people that are like, oh, he's a dog killer, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, his it seems like the way he is looked at in the public eye is, for the most part, people have forgiven him. But I also felt like he really tried. With some of these people, I guess you could say, if you do some things, I want to believe a person can change and be better and learn from their mistakes, but really try. Like, if you want that treatment, if you don't want to be canceled, so to speak, if you don't want those things, then say what you mean and mean what you say, and really try. Show that you were sorry for what you did. Show that there is more to you than these things that you did. And I feel like if a person really tries, then I will really try to forgive and not look at that person as such a scumbag.
Well, when it comes to that, and there's a reason why I brought up Jonathan Majors more specifically. I think Casey Affleck is also a very good example from Heather, because you are an artist, you're a performer. This is not the 1500s. This isn't the 1600s. This isn't back in the day. We don't have patrons where just some rich person, because they like your art, just pays you to do art. That's not how we operate anymore. You are very much in the public eye. Your money, your fame, your ability to do projects, your ability to, do any of this stuff is more or less solely at the discretion of the audience. If people view you as a liability to people seeing something and them making money, you're not in that thing. That's the way it is. So in a weird way, and possibly an unfair way, in an unjust way, you do have to be open to the public with your rehabilitation for whatever you've done. You can't just say, well, no, I worked on it in the background. I did it. I did what I needed to do. I'm
good now.
Yeah. That doesn't cut it. Because it's literally your job, essentially, from that point on, to convince me to spend my money on something that you are a part of. So, yeah. And I think that is something that is a growing thing for people these days. Yeah, that means I need to know what the fuck you did. Because just because you're like, nah, I stopped sexually assaulting people, it's cool. Don't worry about it. No, that's not how that works. It really is the court of public opinion. And the unfortunate thing is, we're kind of all our own judge, jury, and executioner. We're all our own little mini Judge Dredd. Because you have to actually convince all of us. To a degree. I mean, I'm not saying every single human in existence, but I'm just saying, like, you got to convince the people that you think would want to see your movies. And until you do that public mea culpa, you don't really get to sit there and bitch and complain that you don't have a career. Your career is predicated on us liking you enough to watch your shit. That's it. And, that's why I'm very big on this whole idea of you have to have that public mea culpa. And it's why I don't really give a fuck about Casey Affleck doing a goddamn thing ever again in his life. Because him just going, it was a real rough time. I'm better now. Fuck you, dude. That ain't shit. That's nothing. Unfortunately, that's why I brought up Jonathan Majors. he's never really said anything either. Not as bad, but he's still just kind of been silent about it. And we need something. And by we, I mean me. I like, once again, like I said, unfortunately, we're all our own judge and jury. So each one of us is going to have a different standard. That's why some of these little scumbag ass rats are able to resurrect their careers just by whining about cancel culture from now on. You know, they get kicked out of the mainstream market for being scumbags, and they find a new source of money by just going, oh, woke cultures. No, my pronouns are kiss my ass. And that's a real joke from one of those people. So, you know, that's a thing. That's Roseanne, to be more specifically. Roseanne Barr has a joke in one of her new stand-up specials that are only on Fox News streaming, which that's also a real thing. I just don't remember what it's called. And she's like, my pronouns are kiss my ass. And everybody just cheers, even though none of those were pronouns. Like, they just weren't pronouns. Like, they do realize that pronouns weren't something that were just made up, right? That those are definitive articles of, like, grammar and speech. Like, those are clearly defined words. But yeah, she just flips her shit like that. But no, and so once again, like, what this also ties into my next topic, which we can bring up now and it still stay on this when it's all the same. It's all the same because it's all about scumbags. Because it's why I'm glad we talked about it a little bit, but we never really definitively did anything. And ultimately, it's kind of come and gone, and who cares at this point? But Megaopolis. We didn't end up watching that so far for this podcast. And one of the reasons why I personally am okay with that is because Francis Ford Coppola is a scumbag. Has he historically been one? I don't know. I just know there were several accusations of him groping women on the set of this movie. Because, you know, that's a thing. You also have Shia LaBeouf, who has openly admitted to sexually assaulting and physically abusing people. And like Heather said, he's very good at going, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And then like a month later does it again. So it's just real fucking fantastic with that guy. And then you have Dustin Hoffman. A lot of people don't remember that Dustin Hoffman also got Me Too'd. He hasn't just not been in shit because he was taking a vacation. No. Nobody wanted him because he's a scumbag. Guess who's in this movie? Dustin Hoffman. And then you have the king of right-wing Hollywood, the one that, like, I swear to God, he would vote for Hitler if that was an option, with Jon Voight. Yes, Angelina Jolie's father. But yes, he's in this movie too. But yes, so you have all of that wrapped up into this movie. And then I find out something about Francis Ford Coppola. And an associate of his. A protege, if you will. Somebody that he is a big fan of. And so with that, it is a director, the writer and director of some movies, you know, you guys have all probably seen. Did you ever watch Powder, Jastin?
Yeah, I remember Powder.
You know, Powder. He's all pasty and had lightning powers or whatever the fuck that movie was. I haven't seen that movie since 1997. And then, you know, Jeepers Creepers. Everybody loves that movie, right? Remember Jeepers Creepers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Justin Long and all like that, you know, chasing people down the road, and all of a sudden he's a lizard man at the end of the movie. Remember that?
Creeper, baby.
Well, I'm saying all that because all those movies and whatnots were all directed by a guy named Victor Salva. Oh, Victor Salva. He had so impressed Francis Ford Coppola in his early days of his career when he was directing a movie, I believe, called Clown House. Something like that, Clown House. And Francis Ford Coppola was like, man, you know what? Come film that movie at my house. Here, Victor Salva, I'm going to give you the camera that George Lucas shot American Graffiti with to film your movie at my house. Oh, hey, Victor Salva, you used that camera to film sexually explicit images of the 12-year-old lead of this movie? Oh, and you also sexually assaulted him? Oh, no. Oh, you went to jail and you're now a registered sex offender because of inappropriate things you've done with children? Oh, okay. But I'm Francis Ford Coppola and you're now out of jail. And you've been blacklisted. And I feel bad because I think you're swell. I think your little child sexual predator ass is just swell. So I'm going to give you money and I'm going to continue to produce your movies to make sure you have a career. Because you know what really sucks, Jastin? You remember those movies I talked about earlier? Like Powder and Jeepers Creepers? Yeah, those were filmed after he was a registered sex offender.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Convicted sex offender of crimes against children. And his most popular movies were after he got out of jail. You know why? Because Francis Ford Coppola didn't give a fuck that he's a child predator. He knew it. He directly knew it.
And you said he went to jail and he got out, right? And then that's when he made these
Powder.
Okay,
Jeepers
that's when
Creepers.
he made Powder and everything in these movies and everything.
Jeepers Creepers 3.
And I'm assuming he never was remorseful about this or admitted anything about this or said anything about.
I think he admitted it because, you know, it was like a, hey buddy, we've got these videos and whatnots of this child that you were sexually abusing, like in your possession, and you're on the camera. So, you know, and this was like 1993, I think, 92, 93, somewhere in there, you know, so they had the evidence. And it was one of those, plead guilty to like 5 counts of this, spend 2 years in jail, you're going to be a registered sex offender and you come out. It's that type of thing. It's that type of plea deal, you know. But as far as being remorseful, nah, this was that shit in the early 90s. You know, when people would get caught in doing something and it'd kind of be on the news for like a day. And then they'd have a new movie come out and you'd forget about it. It'd be like, you know, like some celebrity would get in a drunk driving incident and you'd be like, oh, I'm so disappointed in them. Oh, they're coming out in this movie. Yay. That weird, awkward time that we justified all kinds of shitty behavior back in the day. You remember when Hugh Grant got caught with a sex worker whilst married to Elizabeth Hurley? It was that type of thing. You know, it's a big deal for like a day. You'll make some jokes or you'll be sad or whatever. And then they come out with another movie and you're like, oh, they're fantastic. You forget about it. Yeah. So, because I guess what you're getting at is like, oh, was there, you know, any sort of redemption or retribution or act of contrition or any of that?
Did he try in any kind of way? Was he ever interviewed about this or what he's doing moving forward or anything like that we know?
No, they just kind of counted on nobody giving a fuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Nah, Francis Ford Coppola is kind of a bad guy. And obviously continues to be one up until, you know, he's kind of groping people about a year ago filming this movie. So Yeah. All of that with this movie is just a myriad of just sex abuse. There's just so much sex abuse associated with this movie. And it makes it very uncomfortable to think of it still being a thing. Also, in other news, stemming from an incident in 2019, country legend Garth Brooks has now been accused of sexual assault and battery. Have I made everyone depressed enough today?
Yeah. It's, the world, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I
What
saw
a time to be alive.
Yeah, somebody had mentioned him on social media today. So I was like, oh, there's another.
This is just like a glimpse into the things that bother me on a daily basis. There's a reason why I end up bumming everybody out and going, oh, yeah, you didn't hear about this celebrity doing this terrible thing? Oh, yeah. I just have a knack of finding it and talking about it and whatnot. I still think my favorite one is you guys not knowing what Mark Wahlberg did. Oh, that was fantastic.
But that's your segment of the show, like we said, the those types of stories will come from you.
Sterling's horrific hour. But even going into that, Jastin, with what you were talking about earlier, with Mark Wahlberg, do you know what Mark Wahlberg's act of contrition has been about nearly killing a man and blinding him, all because of racism? I'm not that guy anymore. You should expunge that from my record. Yeah. And then he wonders why they won't do it. He's just confused. He's like, but I said I'm not that guy. And the sad thing is I actually don't doubt that. I don't doubt that Mark Wahlberg is no longer the same person he was when he did that. But it's just words and actions carry different weight. Like, and when it comes to that type of stuff, just, it's, you do the, like what I feel like every publicist in Hollywood would be saying, like, give the guy a bunch of money, give his family money. Just, you know what I mean? Like, do all this shit, like set up a college fund in his daughter's name and do all this shit. Like, do all that stuff. Especially when it's not even that you're like admitting guilt, because everybody knows it. You know what I mean? It's not like if Mark Wahlberg gave this man money, he'd be pleading guilty to this act that he's like, no, I never did it. No, we know you did it. You were convicted of it. You've even said you did it. Like it's a known fact. So you're not even admitting anything if you just try to help this man and his family actually recuperate from the terrible fucking life that your actions were responsible for with it.
And that's a big thing too, is just like recognizing that even if you're not that same person anymore, that doesn't mean that your actions haven't greatly affected this person on a different level. Like that's what bothers me about the people or the celebrities that are like, oh yeah, that was a thing. Obviously it wasn't a good idea, but we've moved on from it or whatever. That's what bugs me about that, because you're just like, cool, but have they? Do you care if they have? Does that matter to you at all? Because that's a big part of it too. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that, have experienced terrible things by people that it's trauma for them. And if they just, if the person's just like, oh, but like that was just so long ago. Like, why are you so mad about it? It's the equivalent of that is what that sounds like to me. But that was so long ago. Why are you so mad about it? It's like, well, because it caused a lot of trauma, so that those types of cases, yeah, it's like, it's great if you are different and you have changed. And I am kind of with you guys. Like, I completely believe people can and have the capability of changing those things. But you also just have to unfortunately recognize that it does not mean that it still did not affect the other person, even if you're different now,
Anyway, you guys actually want to talk about a movie?
Let's do it. That's why we're here, right?
Sure.
I don't know if I bought that, Justin. Are you just like, nah, I can go either way.
Jess is like, I want to just take a nap now. I'm depressed.
I'm good. I'm just kind of neutral.
You're neutral about talking about a movie?
No, just all of it.
Neutral emotions at the moment.
I get that.
I don't know. I'm just a person that I'm just not swayed if I don't have all of it in front of me. If I haven't read all of the facts, if I don't know everything, if I haven't done the research myself, it's just hard for me to hard lean one way or the other. I'm not a person who hears something and it's like, oh man, I'm riled up. I'm not going to be a person to see a TikTok video or see something and go, ooh, I'm so angry now. That's just, nothing ever triggers me like that. I guess that's kind of I don't know. Maybe that's the good and the bad thing of me. Like, people say something fair, real inflammatory and I'll be like, oh man, but if I don't know it all, I just can't get, I'm sorry, man. I mean, I don't know everything. I can't get where you are. I'm just like, all right, man, sounds pretty fucked up. I'll have to read up on that. I'm just fair. Not quick to just take everything I hear at face value. I just feel like I have to know more about it.
No, and that's good. You should have some skepticism with a lot of this stuff because, I mean, especially with TikTok and all these other things, and just the way the internet is in general, there's just so much information and there's so much that, like you might only get a snippet here and all this other stuff here. And it is a very good idea to like take that. I mean, I use a lot of TikTok videos as like jumping off points. You hear a story. Maybe look and see if there's something else. Go find a source you trust. Then go, start building it that way. That's what I've always done. And then if I come to find that TikTok, for the most part, is just, accurate, I might, then then I take it and I will then share that out. I'm like, no, it's a good distilled version of it. Yeah. Cause I knew about Victor, Salva for a long time. I've known the story of him for a very long time. I just didn't know that Francis Ford Coppola was also behind him with a lot of that stuff. And I went and looked it up and yeah, even credited producer on these movies. Yeah, there was a way to go and find that out afterwards. But I've known, the Victor Salva. That's why I don't watch Jeepers Creepers at all anymore. But maybe that's also why I haven't watched Powder since 1997. And the sole reason.
That film classic. Movie.
I barely remember that movie. I just remember just like about now albino white guy And there was some shit with lightning. That's all I remember.
Yeah, and he was an outcast and he was bullied, and it's just one of those underdog stories. My cousin and I used to like it. We'd seen it in a million years, though.
Oh, powder. Oh, movie.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the new Netflix movie, Rebel Ridge. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time to the description to allow you to jump around if you so require. And with all that, Heather, what are your spoiler-free thoughts about this movie, Rebel Ridge?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really fully know what to expect from this movie. I did not know much of the storyline or anything like that. I didn't see a trailer for it, but I gotta say, I think this was a really good movie. I think it was fun. I think it was like, it had some really good serious moments. It had some really good action. I liked the performances in this one. It took a lot of turns, or like it just went in a direction I didn't necessarily expect it to based off of the first part of the movie or the first half of the movie, but not in a bad way, just in kind of like a way of this entire movie is it's just a whole journey. It's just a whole experience and probably the worst like 2 days of these people's lives, but I think it was, and I really liked the pacing of it. I think it was paced well because like from the opening scene, I'm invested, I'm just like, what's happening? I think they do very, very thoughtful and smart dialogue with a lot of the things they do with the back and forth between these characters. But it's weird because for as much as it does in this movie, as far as how the story progresses from beginning to end, it still doesn't feel like an overcomplicated movie. It's like they took a lot of things about corruption in general, of a particular small town, but they kind of carried it throughout and like explored different aspects of what happens because of this corruption. And they do a good job of just really making you care about what's going to take place. I found myself frustrated at the characters that I think I'm supposed to be frustrated at. I was rooting for the people that I think I was supposed to be rooting for. I feel like, not really a criticism, but just a note of something I noticed is, it just had a little bit of an abrupt ending, but I guess it kind of worked for what the rest of the story did. Would have liked to see maybe just a little bit more at the ending, but overall, yeah, I think it was really well done. It's unique in a way. Like, it's not like it's ideas we haven't seen before or, watched about before, but the way that they tell the story and just sort of how it progresses and how you start to see the things unfolding in this town, the journey of how they get you there with revealing all of it, I think is really cool. I think it's really well done. So yeah, I don't really have a lot that I'd say I disliked about this movie. It was just a really well-made movie, kind of, I guess, what I would consider a well-rounded movie, performance-wise, storytelling-wise, action-wise, not perfect. And I wouldn't even say it's a great movie, but I do think it's a solid movie. I think it's a good movie.
Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I like the movie as well. I didn't like you. I didn't know anything about this until you guys mentioned that we were watching it. So I was like, okay, what is this? I had never heard of it or anything like that. So was totally blind going in. And after it was over, it kind of, I don't know why I kept thinking of movies kind of like The Fugitive or um, even some of those like lower level 90s movies or even kind of some of those old movies like what was that movie Walking Tall or like like where you have law enforcement and there's this one person, we've got our hero person, and you've got this corruption's happening around them and it's about them trying to like unravel this while trying to stay alive at the same time. It kind of had, I'm not saying it was like those movies, but that was sort of the vibe it gave me. That was sort of kind of the vibe I felt. So it kind of had a little bit of a like a crime drama, like thriller throwback kind of feel to it. And then it was very small scale. We're in one town. The world is not at stake. The whole, the world government or whatever is not up for grabs or whatever. It felt very small
Wasn't
scale.
That kind of refreshing.
Yeah,
Just
it was.
Just like a small scale movie for once. I'm like, oh yeah, not everything is just world ending or city ending or just it will break down society. It's like, you know,
if we don't stop this, the whole city will perish. It wasn't
Isolated. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little more reserved in that way. And like we said, just a little more small scale. But and that doesn't mean that there are no stakes, but if you're smart about how it's written and you can come up with some stakes, sometimes the stakes, I think sometimes with these movies, they think, man, the stakes just have to be large as possible for the audience to care. But I don't think for me, it's not always about, are the stakes big enough? For me, it's always been, are the stakes believable enough? Can I believe that this is why this corruption is happening? Can I believe that these characters that we're dealing with would be affected? So that is why they are doing certain things. That is why my heroes are doing certain things. Can I just believe that the stakes for these characters is believable enough? And to me, that will be compelling enough for me to care. Like, it doesn't always have to be, man, what? The world's not at stake. There's not a meteor coming for the earth that we have to stop before the whole world is dead. Well, then I can't care about this. Oftentimes, when it's smaller scale and more believable, it has a level of believability to it. I find that works better for me. And that is something that I liked about this. To steal an old ass term that's going to show my age, the movie never got too big for its britches. I think that's the perfect way to describe it.
Are you my fucking grandmother?
Exactly, right? I know you were going to be like, damn, man, I haven't heard that in a minute. I don't even know why I thought of that, but
a phrase I heard today was too much dip on the chip. And I think that's similar.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one in a minute.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, that sounds like that could be taken several ways, but what too big for the britches is, huh? But anyway, that's what this movie felt like to me. It stayed exactly where it needed to stay throughout. And it never got so over the top or so stupid or so crazy with the conspiracy that, like you said, Heather, it was confusing, or you stopped caring, or you're like, okay, now we have moved into the level of impracticality. Like, this is just, come on, movie. I mean, I'm suspending my disbelief, but I'm not going to suspend it this far. Nothing really felt like that. Everything kind of was in this, for the most part, is in this believable place. So I think that was well done. And to the intelligence of the script, I too agree that the pacing of it was pretty good. And it is compelling right away. I mean, the moment, it's not too much of a spoiler, but the moment, you see Terry on this bike and suddenly we're in this confrontation with these police officers, it found a way to just grip you right away. And the dialogue is well written enough to where these people aren't talking to each other in a way that's expositing. Like it's not. And in a way, there are some scenes that are exposition dump, but they're well done exposition dumps. We're not just saying a whole bunch of stuff because you're just sitting there going, man, this character is saying all of this because they need the audience to know all of this. I like how they had characters talking and giving bits and pieces, or maybe giving you a little bit, saying a little bit, but being uncomfortable to say the rest, and you being able to piece together what's happening. There's a lot of that in this movie, and it works for this movie. I don't really know if I know this Aaron Pierre guy. I mean, has he been in any other things or in a lot of stuff? Or
he was in a movie that you and Heather watched that I did not. He is in that movie, People Getting Old on a Beach, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh, he was in that?
Listen, and when we say he was in that movie, he was at the very beginning of that movie and then not again. He had about 2 minutes of screen time.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now,
I never claimed to know any length of time he was in the movie. All I know is if you go to IMDb and it goes, known for old people on a beach.
I think,
That's all
Jastin,
I'm saying.
if you remember, I don't know how much you remember about that not very memorable movie, but he was like,
no.
he was the guy that, like, when they first got to the beach and they just saw this random guy that was already on the beach that, like, I think something happened to him or he disappeared. Like, he was the first guy that everybody that was on the beach saw, and they were like, oh, who's this guy? He was that guy, as far as I remember in my vague memory of this movie.
Okay.
But yes, it's crazy because I'm sure, and I'm not remembering anything else he's in. I'm sure there's at least a few other things. Apparently he's going to be the voice of Mufasa.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is the voice of Mufasa in the Mufasa prequel that makes no sense.
Okay. That alternate universe.
That's a really
Lion
weird
King.
title. I'm really kind of surprised that they named it that. Mufasa, the movie that doesn't make sense.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
They could have, but
It is
okay.
interesting.
Now I
though,
don't feel
'cause-
as bad. Now I don't feel as bad that I hadn't, because I was like, have I seen this guy before? I mean, nothing about him looked familiar, so I completely forgot that he was in that movie.
Now, to be fair, I will say this. I will have to assume that you and Heather are correct about the amount of screen time he has in Old Fucks, because I don't know how you would forget this man's eyes.
It's a very distinct face.
If you've seen those eyes for any length of time in a movie, you'd kind of remember it.
Yeah.
They are so very distinct.
He's been
Okay.
he's a British actor. He's apparently been in a lot of like shows or miniseries. Like, he played Malcolm X in some show about MLK and Malcolm X, and he was in the Underground Railroad TV show. So he's been like in a handful of things, but unfortunately just nothing that I have specifically seen.
He was also in that 1 season or 2 season prequel TV series Krypton, about before Krypton exploded. He was in that, Jastin. I know you watched that. Do you not remember him in that?
Nope.
But Jastin, you said it was your favorite TV show of all time. You said you watch one episode of it every day before you go to bed.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Man. Wow.
But you're right.
Wow.
Like he's got a very distinct and unique look. Like, but I think that means more so that I just don't think he's had enough roles where he's been main character, and maybe that's the problem.
Well, the only reason why I brought him up is because, man, he was every bit the star in this. Like, this was, for somebody who hasn't done as much, or at least for somebody who hasn't sort of, I guess, really made their, really gotten their feet wet over here with the audience over here. He was really good in this. Like, he was great in this. Like, he had, he definitely had the acting chops. He has a very, like, his demeanor and just how he carried himself, the fact that he was supposed to be this person with a military background and everything like that, he very much seemed like that person. Like, he just had the right demeanor. The guy's in good shape. He looks good. Like, everything physically that he had to bring to this, when there were scenes that needed to be intense, he brought that to this. There are times where, he's withholding information because he's questioning whether or not he can trust this person, or whether or not he should say something about this, or he's, all of that was there. And he very much seems like a person who is, like, always thinking before he reacts and talks and says. Now, there are definitely parts where there is anger and there is split decision making, but all of that felt earned. But for the most part, he definitely felt like somebody with the background that they said he was from. He was very believable as this Terry Richmond person. He very much was this person. So I just wanted to give him a kudos for how well he was, for how well he performed as a lead actor. So I know that there are people saying this was a star-making performance by him. Well, I could see some of that. He was very believable. He did really well. And this is kind of a role where a person like this, like, because there's a lot of actiony stuff in this. There's a lot of, like, there's kind of like this political stuff going on within the town, but then there's also just this rapport he had to have with some of our villains, with other supporting characters, everything like that. And I mean, regardless of who he was interacting with, he just did a great job. I thought he was great in all the scenes, whether it was dialogue or intensity or action. He just performed really well. So yeah, I would love to see him get some more roles and do some more stuff, because it seems like he could be a big star, man, if he just makes the right calls, makes the right decisions, keeps getting the right roles. But no, he did really awesome. And Summer McBride, Anna Sophia Robb, she was good too. I liked them. They were kind of our two main heroes in this, and she performed well alongside him. They had a good chemistry. The tone that they kept was the right tone. That never got too corny or hammy with how they handled their rapport with each other. They kept it in, I think, a place that it needed to be for what this movie was. So I liked her too. She also did a good job. And I mean, nobody really did a bad job. Even some of our law enforcement people in this did a good job too. So yeah, like, I really don't have too many complaints about this film. I mean, I think it was well acted. And I think overall, as you go through the plot, it remained intriguing throughout. And the ending was satisfying enough where you walk away and you go, you know what? I didn't waste my time with this one. So yeah, I'm glad that we did this one. It was a good pick.
For the most part, I agree with you guys. It's just one of those movies. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. I get what you're saying, Jastin, when you brought up things like Walking Tall and those types of films. Like, it really is that type of thing. It's the corrupt cop in the backwoods town or the corrupt town, and it's the one man that has to save it from itself or whatever. And
Reacher or some shit. It's that kind of, it's on that vibe.
Yeah. And for the most part, yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought the acting was great. It was kind of weird. I guess I just hadn't seen the little girl that played Violet Beauregard from the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka in forever, and now she's grown up and playing an ex-heroin addict that works in a courtroom. It's just like how the turntables have turned. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh shit. I know my 20th high school reunion's next week, but I was like, fuck, am I that old? Like, shit. But yeah, that's a thing. And this guy, the guy was really good. Supposedly he's being eyed to possibly play the live action version of Jon Stewart for Green Lantern stuff. And I kind of get it.
Yeah, I get that. I could see that.
You just change his eyes green and it's kind of done.
Yeah, he'd be like really good for that.
Yeah. Because that's one of the Jon Stewart defining features is that he's got just such standout eyes. And it's typically because they're glowing green, but man, you take this man's eyes and you make them glow green, your work's kind of done. But yeah, for the most part, I liked it. It was, I think there is some convolution when it comes to the third act a little bit. It's simple, but they make a couple of weird choices, I think, for the sake of, some twists or whatever that I didn't completely agree with. But, for the most part, this movie just kind of starts and it goes and it tells its story and it gets done. It's 2 hours, but doesn't really completely feel 2 hours. I'm not saying that, it doesn't feel a little long, because it does. It feels a little long, but I think that they did a good job of pacing this movie to where it wasn't overstaying its welcome, but also didn't feel too fast or too slow or anything like that. For the most part, it kind of just, just right. This movie is like a weird Goldilocks with that. It's like most of the things in this movie, it's not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. And it kind of works. But I really like this director, though. The guy that wrote and directed this movie also wrote and directed a movie called Green Room. It's a movie with Anton Yelchin, the late Anton Yelchin, and Patrick Stewart. And it's kind of the same vibes. It's just somebody doing something, ends up in a small town. Weird power structure in the small town. Shit happens. So it's very much like that. But I think one of the things I really appreciated about this movie is there's, I think, too often nowadays with a movie like this, too many people would be tempted to try to do a John Wick. And I think for the uninitiated, this could be John Wickian. But ultimately it's not. And I think it's better off for that. I think this movie would have kind of gotten its head over its skis at that point. It would have just gotten a little too big for what it was. if they tried to make it a strictly revenge movie or a strictly action movie and all of those things. Like, and I feel like that's too much of a theme these days, is to go John Wickian. I'm very glad they didn't with this, because I don't think this movie would shine as bright as it does if it had leaned into that route. Also, shout out to James Cromwell. He's just in this movie, like
Doing James Cromwell things.
I was not expecting a James Cromwell in this movie, and all of a sudden, just James Cromwell. I mean, but this director's weirdly good at that. Like, this little, kind of hadn't done much and all this other stuff. Got a Sir Patrick Stewart in one of his movies. Just getting a Patrick Stewart. Like, it's that type of thing. You're like, holy shit. And he could just sit here and go, you know what? What about a James Cromwell? Let's get Mr. Farmer from Babe in here. Let's get the general from The General's Daughter.
The warden from Green Mile, right? Warden? I don't know. He's one of the guys. Yeah.
I haven't watched The Green Mile in so long. That movie is so long.
He's the guy whose wife's dying.
Movie. I know, but I'm just saying I can only watch that movie once every 40 years. It's so damn long.
It was tight, though.
It's fair. It's so good, though. But yes, I agree. It's 3+ hours.
Tom Hanks. That Michael Clark.
You're just saying, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You're just saying shit.
Are you thinking of the John Coffey thing? Where he's like, coffee, like the drink, but not spelled the same. Anyways, proceed with your thought. Sorry.
What the fuck is going on?
It's time to rewatch it if you don't remember that part.
You don't remember that?
I could have watched that movie a day ago. I don't think I'm going to remember that shit. I don't remember a goddamn thing about that fucking movie.
His name's John Coffey. It's
who's
Michael
who's
Clark
him?
Duncan. His name's John Coffey. Like the drink, only not spelled the same. That's how he introduces himself.
Yeah.
God,
Big Tom.
When did that movie come out?
99.
Okay, so it came out in 99. I did not watch that in theaters, but I probably saw it on VHS roughly around the time. So let's just assume, let's be safe, 2001. I haven't seen that movie in 23 years. Just calm the fuck down.
I'm a little bit, I've got it. I love that movie, so I've seen it more times than you probably should. It's great.
It's a raw movie, Sterling. You should remember
it's the movie that made me love movies.
Raw.
I think I said that on a podcast before. So,
I don't know about
anyways,
that big green.
James Cromwell, please go ahead. My bad.
Y'all are just over there saying names and shit. You're all like, this is, Mr. T, and this is Cafe Latte over here, and what the fuck are you guys talking about? I just no idea. And then you're all, that's his name. Who's he? Yeah.
I thought you heard Jastin say something about Michael Clark Duncan. I thought that was understood. My bad.
All I heard Jastin was doing was he's all, my bad.
Oh, I thought he said Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah,
I don't know what the fuck he said.
Just like that Michael Clark Duncan. That T.
Okay,
Hanks,
but
that Tom Hanks.
you enunciated that like you just ate some Jiffy Puff or something like that. like you just got done giving a blowjob to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and that was your enunciation skills at that point. Like,
it was just a shout out whisper, like, you just like that Michael Clark. I just was trying to say it. Just trying to toss it to you, hoping it would jog something, just not.
But Jastin,
give it all.
You got to remember, you've got a noise gate on your mixer. If you don't get to a certain volume, it doesn't actually transmit.
I was just trying to give it to you soft, and maybe it would trigger something like by Michael Clark. You go, oh yeah, the Green Mile. Sometimes that works for people.
Michael Clark Duncan's in the movie. I know that. I know Michael Clark Duncan and Tom Hanks, Sam Rockwell, James Cromwell. and a bunch of other motherfuckers. I don't know. I don't know any of their names and shit.
I just thought it might trigger something, Stone. I thought you might go, ooh, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
The last Michael Clark Duncan movie I watched was either Talladega Nights or Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
That's what would have been my first answer.
I mean, the oddest thing I remember about that year is that he was nominated for an Oscar for that movie, and Haley Joel Osment was also nominated for Sixth Sense the same year, and neither of them won, and that baffled me.
But who did win?
Somebody from the Cider House Rules. I don't remember who it was.
That fucking movie?
Yep, that was a thing. I don't even remember who it was. Was Michael Caine in that movie? Was Michael Caine in that movie? Might have been him.
No one's actually seen that movie. I don't know.
I know. I was really upset. I was like, those are two of my favorite performances of people, and like they
so
neither
have
one.
either one of you two seen Cider House Rules?
Nah.
No, I heard it was good though.
I don't know a single person that's ever actually watched it. Everybody says what you said, Jastin. Everybody says it's good. Who is everybody? Because I don't know a single motherfucker that actually watched it. So who is this mysterious they?
I don't know, but it is Michael Caine that was in it. It's also Tobey Maguire and Charlize Theron.
Toby.
And I remember Toby in it, but I have no idea what it's even about, to be honest with you.
Part of me always gets that movie mixed up with, was it October Sky? With Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay. Fair enough.
When they're just launching rockets and shit.
Here's something that might sway you a little bit, Sterling. Delroy Lindo is in this movie. And apparently Paul Rudd. Don't know where that came from, but yeah.
What movie?
Cider House Rules.
Oh, okay.
That movie that everyone says is good. I have no idea.
I do love Delroy Lindo.
Yeah.
Delroy Lindo is just so underrated. I was thinking about him the other day. Who's that actor you randomly think of, Jastin?
Powers
What's his name again?
Booth.
No, not Powers
Bokeem
Booth, the other
Woodbine.
guy.
Bokeem Woodbine?
Yeah. Delroy Lindo is mine.
Okay.
I just, that man just pops in my head, man.
Powers Booth. Man. Yeah, Bokeem Woodbine makes more sense to just randomly have at the top of your head.
But like,
I do think of Powers though sometimes. You don't think of Powers Booth? Come on, don't tell me you don't think of him sometimes.
I don't think of either of them on a normal basis, but
well, that's a little weird.
You don't just sit there one day, just sit there in your car or something going, Powers Booth. No?
I actually side with Jastin on that one.
and that's fair. I just haven't thought about it since that time we talked about it.
But I mean, so even with Delroy Lindo, though, it's a very specific thing. It's the scene from the Congo when Tim Curry is eating his sesame cake. Oh, man. And he just is yelling at Tim Curry. Who said you could eat my sesame cake? And he's just so mad. Even though he said, please have some sesame cake. Then he gets so mad that he's eating it. I'm just like, this is amazing. I want to be a dictator so I can yell at people for eating my sesame cake. I don't even know what the fuck sesame cake is. I've never eaten it. But I just want to yell at people for eating it.
Life goals.
After I offer it to them. Anyway, back to this movie called Rebel Ridge. And not movies from 30 years ago. Pretty good though. I enjoyed it for the most part. Like I said, there's a couple of little things here and there. I don't think this movie is as legally accurate as it thinks it is. Because there's definitely some things in here that aren't accurate, but for the most part though, real fun, real good. Recommendations and scores. I almost just said spoilers. Like, that's not even great. Let's just move on. All right, recommendations and scores.
Yeah.
Recommendations and score.
Jastin, go.
Yeah, I recommend it. I just think as far as your Netflix selections, this is kind of one of those good movies that's there in the vast sea that is Netflix. So, I think, I mean, am I going to say, oh, you need to get on this right now? I mean, maybe not necessarily, but I do think it should be on your list, You should go ahead and click on it to watch it later, whatever, put it on your list. I think it should be there. You should at some point take some time for this one. I think it's enjoyable enough. We've all said it's well acted enough. The story's done well enough. It's directed well enough. And overall, it would not be a waste of a person's time. The only thing I was thinking was I was like, man, I kind of wish, I think it would have been cool to see something like this in the movie theater. I think it would have been cool. It would have been a nice little, crime thriller, small town crime thriller to kind of see. This would have been like, this feels like something that could have easily been in the movie theater. Not saying that it necessarily would have enhanced anything that happened to that degree, but I could see myself sitting, eating some popcorn, watching this in the movie theater.
It's just
and
a
enjoying
movie
it.
that needs movie theater popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. This would have been an enjoyable movie in the theater, but we can't do that. So yeah, sure. Put it in your lineup of things to watch for Netflix. You would not go wrong with this. So I think overall, we'll give it, I think it's solid B. We'll go 80. 80, almost dying to retrieve your piss cup out of 100.
Oh, that scene. Jastin, or not Jastin, Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty on the same page with you, Jastin, with it. I think, and yeah, I didn't really mention this in my non-spoilers, but Aaron Pierre he was really great in this role. And I'm with you. I think that it would be nice to see him in more leading roles. Because there was something about how he did his performance here that was just very natural, very relatable, very is just really good. Like you feel like you relate to this character. You feel like this person. And I think that it takes a decent amount of talent to play somebody like in the way that he did for this particular role. Yeah, I think across the board, the acting was really good. And again, the story is, I feel like I am with you too, Sterling. I do feel like it felt a little long. And I wonder if that's just because it wasn't necessarily the thing of you think it's going to end a bunch of times, but you just feel like it's like a video game that has different sections of things you got to get out of throughout the whole thing, to where it just feels like, oh, okay, I thought this was going to be the huge climax of the movie. I thought this was going to be the huge thing in the movie that they got to get past. And then there's like two other things past that they have to overcome as well. And so it just feels a little bit like, I feel like maybe that's what makes it seem long, because it's not, it just feels like it's going to end the specific story it's doing, and then it just kind of carries it on to other parts. And yeah, I don't know, but I agree with you. I think even though I do think it's paced well, I do think that towards the end it does start to feel a little bit longer. But I like the way the story unfolds. I like the perspective we're seeing the story unfolding from, mostly from our main character's point of view. I like just the dynamics between the characters, whether they were amicable or whether it was like they were enemies. I just think all of those interactions felt really well done to me, and the dialogue and the back and forth between most of them was really good too. So yeah, I think there's not a reason not to like it or to watch it. I do recommend it. I think it's Yeah, again, it's not going to be like this is the absolute must see on streaming, but it's definitely a solid film to be like, I'm just in the mood to see like an action movie with just stuff going on throughout the whole thing. This is that movie. This is a good one. So, and I just hope it's a vehicle more for Aaron Pierre to maybe get other things, because I could see the potential in him being a bigger star because of this movie if he gets the opportunities he should for this. So, yeah, recommend it. Yes, I will give it. I'm kind of right with you, Jastin. I'm going to give it a solid 80. 80 acronyms for every occasion out of 100.
What was the number? Sorry. 80?
80, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend it. I hope so, because I'm the one that recommended it to you guys. I hadn't even seen it. I just want to, like everything else, I just heard a lot of good things about it. It was very much trending on some stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let's watch that movie. And I'm glad we did. It's pretty good. Like I said, it's just kind of nice to see a very small, like, scale movie. And I liked one of the things you said, Jastin, about like people are kind of afraid to have like lower stakes in some of these instances. And, you know, to be fair, you just like any genre can, you know, take cue from this too, is just if a rom-com can have low stakes, so can you. Like, it's fine. Like, there are good rom-coms out there, and ultimately it's about the couple, it's about the journey, all those things. You can have the same thing in your movie. I get it if your movie is based around like intergalactic aliens invading Earth. Okay, maybe you can't always have small stakes in those instances, but you still kind of can. 10 Cloverfield Lane is a very good example of small stakes in a big setting. It takes place in the Cloverfield universe. Aliens are invading and destroying humanity as we know it. The movie has 3 people in it. It takes place in a basement for 99.8% of the movie. So yeah, you can do both if you're creative. But no, it's just ended up being a very good, nice watch. Doesn't break any ground, but also it doesn't have to. It can just be what it is, be unapologetically what it is, and just ultimately be worth it. God, you guys are going to make me a dick. Because you both went 80. That's a 78 for me. But Cinescore, or yes, it's a 78. Just bullets just straight through your body and still running around doing shit out of 100. Cinescore is a 80 because fuck you guys. So Cinescore's right up there with you guys. So it's the weighted average. Spoilers?
Yep.
Spoilers.
Jastin, you brought it up, so I gotta talk about it. That courthouse is on fire. Why the fuck is she going to get her urine sample? The shit's on fire. Like, just let it burn down. And plus, the worst case, fire department's going to come in. They're going to shut off power. They're going to be spraying water everywhere. They're going to do all that shit. Like, your urine sample will be contaminated or no longer viable at that point. You know, there's like that whole thing. What is it? That movie, American Beauty, where the kid keeps all the urine in his fridge and just like microwaves it and give it to his dad. He's like passing all these drug tests. Do you know that wouldn't happen? Because since urine is biological, it does decompose. You can't just infinitely keep it just because it's cold. And you also then can't microwave it. it kills things in it because it's a fucking biological thing. It's bio waste. It doesn't, you can't just treat it like it's water. So yeah, if the power goes out in that building because there's an explosion and flooding and fire department and all that other shit, guess what? Your urine sample is going to overheat in that fridge and not be viable. It will be considered contaminated at that point. What are you doing? It just makes no sense. And that really pissed me off. I get it. That was the scene they needed to get to the third act, but damn it. It still kind of annoyed me. I did like their dynamic together, though. It was also kind of refreshing to have a male and female character in a movie have good chemistry and a good dynamic. And it not just be a will they, won't they, the whole fucking movie. It's like, oh, they could just exist as people. And that's fine. Because it wasn't necessary for this movie. So I'm glad we had that. Because that is something most movies forget they can do. Most stories forget. You don't have to have a love interest in your story. You can just have people connecting with each other as people. And that is a valid form of connection. Especially in movies. Jastin, what about you? What are some more thoughts you had? Keep in mind a little light, letting you guys go.
No, those are some cool things that you said. Yeah, I too like the dynamic with those two characters. And I did also like that it didn't become this romance thing or anything like that, because I just feel like, especially for this movie, that would have been kind of corny, and it would have just really just taken away from really the tone and the mood that they established. So I like the rapport that they had. I like that they both had concerns and things that they were trying to do, like her with everything that happened with her trying to gain custody of her kid and everything, and, you know, being a drug addict and trying to rehabilitate, trying to show that I'm a good person. I can be a good mother. So I thought all of that was good. I like that there was this character trying to redeem herself. So it made sense for that character to look at Terry and his situation and feel bad for him, kind of want to help, kind of want to like give as much as a helping hand as she could, but at the same time being very cautious to not ruin it for herself. So I got all of that. I think that they kept, again, just back to that word I used earlier, believability, that they just kept that in a very believable place. She wasn't just nice to him because she was nice, or, oh, look at the hot black chocolate, I'll help him. It wasn't, you know, it sometimes in movies, like I say it as a joke, but sometimes in movies, it's just, sometimes people are just nice. And that seems like the only reason why they're nice.
I cannot tell you how worried I was in scenes. They were just going to make so much of this movie like just one of the bad cops being like, oh, you just want him because he's black and hot. And like, just make it something like that. Like,
you just want your hot chocolate.
Yeah, I was so afraid that one of the cops was just going to break into that during like one of those things. I was just like, it's going to happen.
Or one of the bad guys be like, your boyfriend, since you're trying to help him. You know, they could have easily done those stupid things. And thank goodness they didn't.
And I get what you're saying, because there is a lot of movies love having those weird undertones of anytime there's something interracial, they got to make it somewhat fetish,
jungle feverish. that fetish.
Yes. Yeah. Like, they got to fetishize some aspect of it. They can't have it just be a normal relationship. They have to have some character make it a almost fetish thing. Do you love that whenever it's like two people are in an interracial relationship in a movie, and then it's like one of the quirky friends? It says something like what you were saying earlier, Jastin, like, oh no, we all know how much she loves her hot, dark chocolate. Like, one of the friends always has to make it that, and you're just like, oh, that's gross. Yeah, I was so afraid that like they were gonna break that one of the tropes of the movie is that not only were they corrupt cops, but they're also racist corrupt cops, and that they're also gonna have issues with the white girl in town that they all like, that one of them has that secret crush on, been asking her out on dates every month, but now all of a sudden the black man shows up and now she's all ready to date, like having issues with that. Like, I was so afraid as so many times it was going to go into those terrible tropes.
And I agree too, especially because they casted both of them to be the same age. And if we're being honest, like Anna Sophia Robb's character could have been an older lady and it would have been the same sort of thing. But I mean, they were both young, attractive people. So it feels like they so easily could have done it. And I also am very glad that they didn't go that route because, again, like that's not the tone and that's not the story that we're here for this. Like, this is not the story that I don't think I would have cared about that aspect of this movie at all.
Like, the main bad cop, I'm not talking about the chief, but just the main guy, the guy that gets tased by him and beat up, and he's the one that gives her the heroin and shit. Like, that cop, doesn't, like I said, in most movies, would he not be the cop that's also in love with her?
Yeah.
And like stalking her.
Failed, and yep, I get that.
Or he is the baby dad, or he is the ex-boyfriend that is stalking her, and there's nothing she can do because he's one of the police officers, and his dad's the chief. It's just, there's so many bad cliche storylines that are based around a lot of the things in this movie.
Yeah, it's just real low-hanging fruit. And just like what Heather was talking about, you got two attractive people. So it's just low-hanging fruit that they look at each other and it's like, oh man, we're going to have sex later. It's just such low-hanging fruit. So I'm glad that we didn't do that. And I get what you're saying about let me get my pee samples and stuff like that. The one thing I'll give it is at least they had the character really caring about her reputation and trying to get her kid back and everything like that. She really, really, really was serious about it, cared about it, like everything like that. And then even like that part where she was talking to him and she said, well, I don't want my kid. I want my kid to know that I'm not just a motherfucker that'll just let bad shit keep happening just to protect myself and stuff like that. That character they did enough to show that she did care. So would a person like that go, I don't want to leave any loose ends. I want to grab this and know they don't have it. They may try to use it against me later. What could happen? Maybe a person that concerned with it. And now these cops are like actively now trying to bring her down because she's helping the opposition. Maybe a character like that would do that in the heat of it. So at least they did enough with the character to be like, okay, or at least for me, I mean, maybe not so much for you, but at least for me, it was like, okay, should she have done it? No, it was dangerous and it was risky and everything like that. But I think they did enough and they made me care about her situation enough to where I could at least on some level understand why she would think I need to grab that. I will at least give the character development that. At least they developed it enough for that. And then just going on to some of the scenes, and I guess just to talk about this conspiracy a little bit. I don't know exactly how much. I'm not familiar with this rule about the 90 days and like that affects when body cam footage can be used or utilized or
no. So that rule specifically would be for this town. It's how long do you keep the stored files of body cam footage? And, you know, because that just takes up space. Like that takes up, you know, data, like hard drive space. And so the argument was that the county, in their rule to reform police, was they keep body cam, or it's not even body cam, it's just dash cam. It's not even body cam. So they keep the dash cam footage for 90 days. And as long as there's no requests for it or pending investigations or pending anything for that dash cam footage, they erase it after 90 days under the assumption of they just don't need it anymore. That's what the county came up with. So the cops use that as the loophole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they figured out as long as we hold them in jail and they don't have any representation, because they like, and that was one of the smart things. Misdemeanors don't typically, you're not afforded a court attorney for misdemeanors. So therefore you don't get legal representation. So you don't fight the 90 days and then your footage is destroyed and then they just let you out. And it just allows them to keep doing that stuff. And it also helps allow these civil forfeiture aspects go, because that's also probably a big part of it too, is like, oh, hey, if they do contest the civil forfeiture, the dash cam footage might point out that I was lying, and they would lose, and we would lose that. So therefore, oh, the dash cam footage is gone now too. So therefore we get to keep this money we stole from you. Like,
yeah.
I will say this. I'm really kind of glad they did bring a spotlight to civil forfeiture, because that is one of the most corrupt systems of fucking anything out there. And a couple of times the Supreme Court has said, nah, it's legal. Just blows my mind.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, I wasn't 100% sure, is that true? That whole 90-day thing and stuff like that. But you're saying that was just a rule that was made up for this specific town or story, or is there some truth to that? Are there a certain number of days?
It really depends on the place.
Okay, so it varies.
A place like Chicago isn't going to have no 90-day rule, because A, the police can afford the budget here, and 2, the city's going to afford it. It just becomes a liability thing. Small towns, budgets are smaller, requirements are smaller, because ideally you deal with less crime, so you shouldn't need more than 90 days.
Okay.
Like I said, that like those aspects, unless there is a state law to enforce something, there's no federal law whatsoever. It'd be a state law or a local ordinance that would be dictating all of that.
Okay.
And so in this instance, they're saying the city ordinance would be 90 days.
Okay.
So.
Okay, because that was the only part I was a little murky about. I was like, is that true? Because that just didn't, I was like, can't they hold stuff for longer than that? But within that context of it being a small town and everything, that's fine. That was just the only thing I was iffy about. I was like, surely they can hold, they have to hold stuff longer than that. But even though that part, I was like, is that 90-day thing true or not? I loved the legal loophole of it all. I liked how it wasn't this big, like, spellbounding thing. It was just sort of a way for them to be able to take that money, and then they could keep a person in here under a misdemeanor. They don't have representation. I liked the legal loophole of it all. It was just a way for them to be able to use and keep that money for whatever they wanted because of that those incidents that almost bankrupted the town. So this is them sort of under the table trying to fund not only the police force, but the town and everything like that because of them trying to find a legal loophole to recoup off of people who they've arrested or people who they're like, they're drug dealers. These are bottom of the barrel people. So why not take that money and use it for something? You could just see how some corrupt ass cops might rationalize this and try to do this and feel like, yeah, it's bad, but the ends justify the means. All of that to me was in a believable place. Even though I wasn't sure about all the legalities of it, it felt believable enough that this is something that some cops would be doing. And I like that that's all it was. It didn't have to be this big thing. It wasn't these super racist cops and it's just all the black people, or it's just that, I just think that this could have been really cartoony with how they do the cop villains. And I'm glad that it was just that. Like that was the extent of it, and it was just one character. It was one judge that explained that. And that was it. You didn't need all these other interweaving things. There wasn't some, there's a plot twist on top of a plot twist, like in Argyle or anything like that. We didn't need 100 other plot twists. It was just, that's what it was. That's what the cops are doing.
I'm not going to lie. I'm so jaded by some of these movies lately too. Were either one of you slightly afraid that at the end of the movie, she was going to betray him too?
A little bit, yeah.
I thought it could happen, especially because there was a child at stake and stuff. I was like, does somebody have something on her, something that might, that might lead her to, yeah, I thought that could happen, and also what planted that seed, well, not really in the movie, but in my head was you also had that black female officer. So there's a worse movie of this where all the white people are bad and he has to depend on that black officer that's in the force to help him. There's a dumber version of this movie where that is exactly what happens, Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the sad thing is because of the way this movie is done and avoiding some of those tropes, unfortunately, there is a lot of bad versions of this movie. There are lots of scenes that in worse movies, they just take the other fork in the road every time. There are so many of those that are pretty much the same movie, and they just took a couple of lefts instead of rights. And then it's there. And you're just like, oh, that's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm just glad that this movie, it just decided to stay in its own lane. You know what I mean? It picked a lane. It went with that. And and I think you said this, Sterling, it just confidently and unapologetically was that. And that was it. That's all it had to be. And also just these are little continuity things, but also I like that, he's our lead and everything, but I also like that when he was riding that bike around, he was actually sweating and it was hot and it was tiring because, man, if you're riding that bike around in that kind of weather, yeah, your ass would be sweating. So I like how every time he was on that bike or pedaling somewhere or something like that, they always made it a point to wherever he was or after where he would ride and be talking to somebody, it looked like he was riding a bike in some hot ass weather. So I just appreciate the continuity of that. It's little shit, but sometimes, man, I commend movies for doing the little shit, like not forgetting where we are and what is happening and what characters are doing. So just appreciate a little shit like that.
Also, why did he just not attack them with that bike? Because that bike was damn near indestructible. How the fuck was it still whole by the end of this movie? I mean, that's all I'm saying. Just that bike was a goddamn cheat code.
He said
He got
that
hit
bike
by,
was
like-
worth hella though. Didn't he say it was
He
worth
said it
some
was- he said it
thousands
was
of
worth a
dollars?
couple
Like
of
he said,
grand.
yeah, take that bike back. It's worth like hella thousands or something. And I went, what? The bike is worth that?
Yeah, dude, it's made out of tank. One thing too, I'll say before you, Heather, is just there's also like there was a surprisingly good amount of humor in this movie.
There was.
But it wasn't out of place. Like I liked it too. Whenever what was his name, Terry, like especially when he said some of those jokes, because like it showed that while he is this military guy and all this other stuff, he's still also just a person. Like that scene when she's talking about all that stuff and he's like, no, I won't say it. She's like saying, he's like, I was just going to say that blows.
Yeah, that was
That's
funny.
a damn good scene.
Yeah.
That was a good joke. There was one other one I could have sworn. There's like, you might be, you were possibly going to say that, Heather, but go ahead.
I was going to say when he's on the phone and he's like having the conversation, he's like, and then I thought about, fixing this. And then I thought, nah. And then he just hangs up on him. Was it that?
No, it wasn't, but that's a good one
That was
too.
a good one though, too.
No, the other one, it was that it's a joke, but it's not, but it's great. Is when they're at the restaurant and he's getting his shoulder stitched up. And he's like, oh yeah, he fought in Korea. She goes, thank you for her service. And he goes, he's Chinese. He fought for the other side. That's a fantastic joke. It's a fantastic scene. It worked because these were just little moments to break up the tension of like everything that was going on. And once again, it kind of just reset you and moved you on to the next part. Like, it's okay. This concludes this part of the movie. We're starting the next part. You had that little joke reset. And then that way, it breaks the tension a little bit. It breaks up the adrenaline aspects of it. It just kind of resets you so you can ramp back up again. But I really loved that one though. Just he's Chinese. He fought for the other side. And just the look of, oh fuck, on her face. It was fantastic.
And then she's like, well, it's good that we could all come together now. That was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, she had to try to clean that up. But yeah, you're right. Those were funny scenes. And it speaks to like Aaron Pierre's just ability, like his ability to also have the comedic timing with it, but also his ability to do those like main character action hero monologues, like that acronym monologue when he was talking to the police chief and he was like, and he was going through like what the different acronyms meant. And he was like, you're about to make me go to the E. That whole monologue, that was good shit, man. Like, all of that was good shit, man. He was just so effective in all of his acting. But yeah, but I'm done, Heather. I'll let you go.
No, I mean, it honestly, like, it won't happen because, we live in the world we live in. But there are certain aspects of him that really made me think he could have played or could play somebody like a Joker-esque villain in a movie, because his ability to maintain intensity with his face and his body, but say things that aren't. Like, part of it was what you were talking about, Justin, with that whole pace thing. He's saying very threatening things and he's giving very threatening looks, but the tonality of his voice is not threatening. It's just an explanation. It's just purely information. And he's just so calm like that, but also portraying, I'm going to fuck you up energy.
Yeah.
With every other aspect of his being. And it creates really interesting dynamics of the body And the aura is, I'm going to fuck you up. But the tonality is like hey, let me just give you the definition of pace. Because, you need some info. I'll give it to you. Like, it's a very conflicting thing that works for some of those villains, of like the Joker saying fucked up shit but laughing and joking about it. It's like those tonality things, or looking like I'm going to murder you but still telling jokes. I really think he could play somebody like that in one of those types of movies. And I know where it's 2024 and we live in this hellscape of a country, we're not getting a black Joker anytime soon, but still, we can dream. But yes, Heather, you know.
I mean, and it's that about Aaron Pierre, but it's also like on a dime being able to flip into very emotional, like the scene whenever the chief tells him about what happened to his cousin, and like he is like so visibly like frustrated and angry and disturbed, and then like you just see he's also just so sad, and then you just see like tears running down his face, but like angry tears. Like he's able to actually show the range of emotion that he needs as well. So yeah, I do agree. The way that you said it, Jastin, is good, where it's just effective, very effective way that he did it. And also fun information for you, Sterling, because you didn't get to see old people on the beach. Apparently, and I totally forgot about this, his character's name in the movie was Midsize Sedan, because he was a rapper, and he apparently did write and record a song for that movie, which I was unaware of, but now I want to hear it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You guys didn't tell me he rapped in this movie.
I don't think it was actually in the movie. I think it was probably just on the soundtrack somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't remember any music really being played.
But when you said Midsize Sedan, I was like, oh, now I remember it. Yeah, it all came back.
Yeah,
right
he has got like these like dreads and stuff like that. Like he's supposed to be a rapper. I think that just got stuck on this beach somehow.
I mean, it's real funny because you guys are like, oh, his name was Midsize Sedan. And I guess I get that because in his IMDb credits, it does say midsize, but I'm looking at it just the small version of it. So I'm not looking at the full, like anything like that. So I guess that totally tracks with that's what his name was. But like, I just never cared enough. I thought they were talking about like, he's the middle version of somebody getting old.
You know what? That's not a bad. Honestly, like it could also read as like, if you didn't read the whole thing and you just saw the midsize, it could have been like, what if he's a midsize sedan owner that you see in this? Like, just not an actual name to him or something.
Yeah, like he's like a background character or something like that, where they're like, oh, I wonder whose midsize sedan it is. I wonder if it's that guy's, and he's just like walking.
Yep.
And in the credits, it's all midsize sedan guy.
Yep. It could have been that, because I mean, as much screen time as he had, could have been that, honestly. But but yeah, I think I did also really like the dynamic between what's his name, Terry, and the girl, I'm forgetting her name, Anna Sophia Robb's character.
Wasn't it Summer?
Summer
Yes.
McBride.
Summer, yeah. I did really enjoy their dynamic, and as we talked about, like it was just this platonic, like mutual, had respect, understood what the other was kind of dealing with type of thing, which was really nice. But honestly, I really liked, even more than that, maybe the dynamic between him and the chief of police, Don Johnson's character. Like they're back and forth and they're riffing and they're like utter hatred for each other, but also trying to like save face and just kind of like what you were saying, very informative, matter of fact about what he's saying, but also like, I want to rip your head off if I could. And they both had that underlying tone to everything they said to each other, but they just had this really great dialogue, specifically what you were talking about, Jastin, the scene of him talking about like the acronym and the pace and all that. Like that was such a good scene. Like that was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I just, from the beginning, every scene they have together is just very like a ping pong match of who's gonna just outwit the other and be, you know, better in this conversation, you know. But also just the fact that Don Johnson's character was so incredibly infuriating in every single thing that he did. So I think he also did such a great job as the role he was doing, because he just pissed me off anytime I saw him. And I was like, I hate this guy. He's the worst. All of them were the worst, but he was just so incredibly terrible. But like I think also something else I appreciated about the way that Terry is portrayed is, even from that first scene, you know, he's like wrongfully accused, wrongfully, you know, like had to be, you know, checked or whatever you want to call it. Like it's sad, but it was like a really subtle good thing that he did of, he's very calm the whole time. He was talking very clearly, very like, I want to make sure what I'm saying you understand. I'm going to be in a calm tone. I don't want you to mistake this or pretend like this is something else. Like he did everything right that he was supposed to do in that conversation. But at every turn, they were just making it more difficult because they wanted to. And he still stayed calm because you feel like, unfortunately, it just feels like something that he was used to. And maybe not particularly with that town, but it just felt like he knew the way that he needed to approach that situation because he's been in it before. And so he was like prepared. But also like it was a tense scene because you're like, I don't know where this is going to lead. Like this is the beginning of the movie. I have no idea what's about to happen here. But it was just a really subtly nice thing that like even on his face, you see that he's so annoyed because he's like, I shouldn't be in this situation. I shouldn't have to explain any of this to you. I shouldn't have to say yes, sir, to you and thank you for just letting me not go to jail when I shouldn't be. You know, it just felt like a situation he was unfortunately familiar with. And it's sad, but yeah, like that's just kind of the way that he did that performance in the first, at least in my opinion. And I thought it was just really a great way to set up a little bit of like understanding who he is as a character. So I really liked that. I did also like the whole, like the idea, kind of like what you said, Jastin, of like, you know, the black female that worked there that was just like, she didn't actually play the role specifically the way you think she's going to. She's still very important in the movie and she came in clutch at the end, you know, but just this whole journey of like, is she going to side with the police or is she not going to side with the police? Like, we don't know what to expect from this lady yet, you know, but it was also very realistic because the position that she was probably in of like, this is my job. This is my livelihood. This is where I live. These are the people I work with. Like, I can't jeopardize this. You know, I'm already at a disadvantage as a minority in more than one way. Like, what do I do here? But also, you know, she's a cop, so she needs to do what a cop should do and protect herself and protect the other people. So it was a very conflicting dilemma that you see her in as well. And I just thought that was interesting to throw into the mix as well. And I did also like the whole thing of, what did he call it? Serpico, the person that was secretly like, you know, I don't remember what she called it, but somebody that she could trust in the department that Summer could trust. And it ended up not being who you thought it was going to be. I forget his name, but Pam's ex from The Office, that guy. Yeah. And that was a good, I mean, I guess if you want to call something a twist in this movie, that would be it. But that was good. It threw me off a little bit because I was like, he was pretty terrible to him. I'll say that much. He was pretty terrible to the guy. But at the same time, it's like, I liked that they were like, cool, he might be somebody she trusts, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's treating everybody else right either. You know, so that was an interesting, like, okay, do I trust this guy now that I need somebody's help? Like, do I actually trust this guy or not? Because I had an encounter with him before and it didn't go well. So it just, all of the relational aspects of what they do in this movie are really good with the backdrop of the action that they have going on throughout. Like, it just balanced out really well. And again, a lesser movie could have made this really lame, could have made it very tropey, really just uninteresting, and just like every other thing you've seen similar to this before. But the small, little detailed choices they make this a little bit above a lot of those other films. And I just appreciated how they did that and the fact that they were able to do that. And again, like kind of what you both alluded to, the fact that it's a small town, it's an isolated sort of problem going on, not isolated because the whole town is corrupt, but like, again, not the whole world is at stake. You know, the president is in on all of this and he's going to corrupt the country, you know, because he's in cahoots with us or whatever. It's just a small town corruption thing that it brings you into the world of these people here in this one town. And it makes it more intimate feeling when you're watching it. And I really like that.
Well, going back to one of the things you were just talking about, when it comes to the character, the Serpico character and all this other stuff, that's actually something very weirdly accurate that I've seen cops do in certain situations, because they have a relationship with somebody or a friendship with somebody. So their crimes are always excusable. So while Summer used to do drugs and used to do crime stuff, the fact that she had overcome it and all this other stuff in a way that the cop sees as socially acceptable and all these things, they see that as that's a true person that's been rehabilitated. They've turned their back on the criminal ways and all this other stuff. And then they'll look at somebody else, even though the cops are more or less doing crimes and breaking the law. It's just this other person they're just a criminal. So it doesn't matter if their rights are being infringed. It doesn't matter if anything like that. I don't give a fuck about them. They're a criminal. Criminals don't deserve rights. Criminals don't deserve any respect. Criminals don't deserve humane treatment in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But the person that used to be a criminal, they're rehabilitated. They're an active member of society now because they stopped their criminal ways. Therefore, we respect them. We trust them. We don't want them being wrapped up in all this crime stuff. They're just rebuilding their life, but not the criminal. That also wasn't a criminal. Like, on the flip side of it, also wasn't a criminal. Like, and that's the sad thing about it, is that is the way a lot of cops do look at some of these situations. You know, they'll look at somebody like Rush Limbaugh, who won't get into any of the political stuff, but addicted to opiates, severely addicted to opiates, addicted to drugs, a step away from fucking being addicted to heroin. But because he just never gotten never went to jail for it, but he was able to get rehab and get clean and all this other stuff. So he's a good guy. He just got stuck in a bad situation. But if somebody else is addicted to drugs and they get caught, stealing some shit to sell for drugs, even if it's like, $25 worth of shit so they can go buy, they're just a fucking criminal addict. They don't deserve this. They don't deserve that. I won't, get into any of the other implications. I will. It's because most of the time some people are white and some people are black. And therefore that's why, and I'm just saying, but sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's sociological differences as far as like your income. Like a poor person that's addicted to drugs, they're garbage. A rich person addicted to drugs, bad situation. There's so many socioeconomical ways you can divide how people look at stuff. It's always typically wherever you put yourself in the scale, anybody lower than you is bad, anybody above you is good. Holistically speaking, that's just how most people break it down. A businessman that steals a bunch of money because of tax loopholes. He's a smart businessman. You steal $5 from a register, you're just a dirty thief that needs to get thrown under the jail and never actually get out, because there's no way you could ever rehabilitate any aspect of that behavior. It's, you know what I mean? But that guy probably looked at Summer as somebody that more or less equal. So it's like, she got, bad situation. She can rebuild. So that's why I find it actually very weird that he can have no problems violating the constitutional rights of our boy Terry at the beginning of the movie, throughout the movie, not giving a single fuck about that. But they're like, whoa. But you might give Summer and frame her with heroin when she's the same race and socioeconomic class as I am? Oh no, that's crossing the line. So actually not. That's one of the more accurate things about this movie, is that they have that situation.
Yeah. I mean, and that is a good perspective to hear. And like, and it didn't even feel like inaccurate. It was just a surprise. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just kind of like, oh, all right, well, this is not the guy I thought was going to help at all. But yeah, I mean, you explaining that, it unfortunately makes sense that is sadly accurate to how things were with it. But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they made very specific choices about how each character treated everybody else around them. And I feel like they just put a lot more thought into all of the characters' dynamics together than other movies like this might have done. Like, I don't know. There's just something different about this movie, and just kind of special with how they did it, given, again, it's not like it's the first of its kind, really. But yeah, it's the performances that feel realistic, but it's also like the actions that we see these characters take throughout the movie, for the most part, feel realistic as well. Again, I'm also with you guys about like, why did she go back to get her urine sample when the building was about to burn down? Like, I'm with you guys on that. I think that was just a plot point to get to the next part. But other than that, like, just the little things that were happening, and like in the combat moments, and like the even like when he's out there waiting for Summer to come out of the building and sees she's gotten kidnapped. He hears voices, and then he's like, oh, immediately I gotta back up and hide myself so they don't see me in this car. And then sees what's happening and immediately follows, but stays back far enough to where he's not like right up on them to where they see him coming. Like, I feel like just those little decisions they make, feel like, yeah, like for the character of who Terry is, that makes sense. He's got all of this like military training. He's a very like smart, tactical person. Like, it just felt like, yeah, those are the things that he would be doing in this situation. So, yeah, I don't know. I just really appreciated that it felt like they cared enough about the details in this movie to try to get you more invested. And I mean, especially lately with a lot of bad movies we've seen, they don't care enough to like try hard enough with those little things that help a movie be good that you don't think about in the moment. So yeah, that's all I got.
A couple of little things. I did like also that joke, the McMap joke, when they're like, oh yeah, what's that? No, they don't know. And then they're like, oh, Marine Corps martial arts program. Oh, fuck it, the chief. Like, that was kind of a funny scene with that. Yeah. But also one of the things that I think it's a very subtle thing, but I think it's a very important thing, is the fact that even though these were corrupt people and doing all these horrible things, he wasn't interested in just wantonly killing all these corrupt cops. He was using less than lethal rounds. He was trying to just disable them, and small things like that. Like, I do think that that's an important characteristic to show that because of the type of person he is, even whenever his life is in danger, through all that, he's not trying to kill people because that wasn't the point of it to him. The point of it, especially at that point in the movie, is to right the injustices that they are doing. And wantingly killing them wouldn't do that. So I think that's a nice, subtle distinction in this movie that I really liked that they kind of showed with that. You know, he's using the beanbags and he's using the smoke grenades and all that stuff. One of the things when it comes to some of the stuff that to me, that almost made this movie a little too unbelievable was the fact that all of a sudden at the end of the movie, after all those shenanigans happened, half the police force is like, you know what? No, we're going to take down the captain too, and we're going to escort this guy and do the right thing. All of a sudden, you just spent like 30 minutes trying to murder this man. And because he got out, you went, you know what? We're actually going to care that we've been committing crimes this whole time. And we could go to jail. But you know what? We'll do the right thing now. Let's stop the captain and let's escort them to the state troopers. I found that a little disingenuous at the end of this movie. That didn't track for me.
They overheard, right? Or saw the footage of that other cop getting shot, right?
Most of them were standing there when it happened. Most of them just saw it happen. It wasn't even that they saw the footage. Most of them were just there and saw it.
Okay, I thought those people that escorted were other cops who were away from the station.
They could have been. Now, that's fair. Now, they could have been, because they did talk about that there were cops that were like doing barrier stuff. So they could have been those cops. Sure. 100%. That could be a thing.
Because, and I thought he said something about when you activate this, it's going to go live, or didn't he say something like something was going to go live or something was going to go?
I don't think it's not streaming. I mean, I think more or less, I think what he was saying is if you flip it, what he meant, like when he said it goes live, my understanding would be you flip it, it would save the 3 minutes it's been shooting, because apparently they're on all the time. They're just not saving any of it. So it's more or less erasing itself every 3 minutes. And so once you click it on, it'll save the 3 minutes from before, and then it becomes a live recording also. That's how I took it. When he says it goes live, as in it will save the past 3 minutes and record live from that point on. That's how I took it.
Okay, I didn't know if the other cops could hear that or could.
I mean, it's weird to me though that like in a police force that size, it's not like they don't know all the corrupt shit they've been doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's my point with it, is that they've been silently okay with all the corruption they've been doing. And now they're going, you know what? The chief shooting another cop, though, that's where I draw the line. The chief shot a cop like a criminal. And then it becomes that whole thing of like all the crimes we were committing, that's whatevs. But that was cop on cop crime. We can't stand for that. That's just how I took it, and it made me feel gross.
I see. And it also depends on if those cops were corrupt to themselves or in the loop, because I know just from cop accounts of, I've read some like accounts of some retired police officers or police officers who were off the force, and they were talking about kind of some of the culture. And there will be cliques of cops that are like, oh, you're too much of a goodie, or you'll tell on us, or you can't be trusted with this corrupt shit. So we're not going to let you in on the shit. We're not going to tell you, yeah, you're here, you got a job, you're here, but you're not, like, you're here, but you're not a part of the family type deal. Like you're here and you have the job and everything, but we're not going to let you in on the real shit that we're doing. I know that kind of stuff happens too. Like,
oh yeah, that's totally fair. But also, this town's not that big. Like, there's not that, like, there's weirdly a ton of cops for the town that size. There's weirdly a huge amount of them. But
yeah, and all I'm saying is, I'm not trying to say you're completely wrong about it. I'm just saying there is this possibility that not every cop was in the network of doing the wrongdoing, and they're escorting because they just want the cop. They weren't escorting to help our hero per se. He just happened to be the one in the car with the cop that was hurt. It was more about making sure the fellow officer got the medical attention more than it was about helping Terry, is all I'm trying to say.
That I totally agree with. Like, that aspect of, hey, Bob's in there and he was shot. Like, I don't agree with, what Bob was, like, trying to stop. Like, but, he at least should get an ambulance. We don't kill other cops. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. Because it was the whole thing of, like, after he got shot, they're like, all right, let's get a medic. And the chief was like, whoa, maybe not. And it was him and that one fucker. There were the two that were like, no, we don't, like, they were the two that were completely get the thing. And that's why I do agree with you. I think that if anything, that they were there, not necessarily to do the right thing by Terry, it was do the right thing but there's a cop in there and he was hurt. So
which is why at the end he's
Officer Jenkins,
hence why he grabs that dash cam equipment or whatever,
the DVR,
and he's like holding on to it like for dear life, like it's his favorite teddy bear or something. He still wasn't out of hot water. There were still scenarios where he couldn't trust all these cops or anything like that. So that just felt like a break he got because of the situation of the Serpico coming to light there.
I agree. But my thing is I guess it is just a little ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, oh, we're gonna escort them. And it's because of why. And one of those ways makes me feel real dirty and the other one feels not realistic. So I don't know. I guess it is better that it's vague because I only feel half gross.
Oh, and another thing, one thing I forgot to say, but I'll just say real quick. Also with the fighting, I like the fact that I also liked how he was fighting. He seemed like someone with a military background, how he would go prone and crawl under vehicles and a lot of CQC, a lot of close quarter combat and takedowns and subduing people and stuff like that. He wasn't jumping around doing ninja flips or, doing all these ultimate karate moves or whatever. It felt very like close quarter combat-y, very tactical, very like, it wasn't a lot of, oh, I'm going to fight this person and we're going to punch each other 5 times each and all this stuff. It was very like real quick and practical. Boom, take this guy down, subdue him, move to the next guy, stay hidden. He wasn't dodging every bullet and shit. He was hide ducking behind cars and watching himself, and he was using the smoke bombs and sneaking around, like very, very tactical in the way he was fighting. And there was just I'm not saying I'm a military combat expert, but it felt very believable that this person would be fighting like this. What was that Transformers movie where they said that son of a bitch had a military background and we never once did he do anything that seemed like anything that he was in the
about
Army?
Beast Wars?
Yeah, the Beast Wars. Yeah. That dude. that are.
Yeah, but he became a human transformer.
Yep, he sure did. But remember how we were like, he never
But he
did
joined G.I.
anything
Joe.
that showed that he was military background, and then the whole
No,
movie.
dude. I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I got to disagree with that because he joined G.I. Joe. Can you get
He
more
sure
military
did.
than that?
You sure did right at the end.
I mean,
They were like, "You're awesome.
But no,
you need to be
this-
in this." The whole movie, he's
No,
like,
but they-
right, oh no.
Yeah. but like they did do a good job with Terry because like he does feel like he was a martial arts trainer for the Marine Corps. Like he felt like it, like, and like you said, Jastin, it wasn't movie martial arts. It was that practical martial arts that the Marine Corps would do. Like if you're fighting, you're not going to be flipping. Don't do that. You're going to come over here. You're going to wrap something around their neck and you're going to flip them.
Yeah.
And, but you're not going to, you will never flip.
And that's exactly what I mean with the nuances and them in the details of what they do with these characters.
Yeah, and there wasn't just that stupid fight where it's him and some big muscular cop dude, and it's like, oh, this is the one who can fight too. And it's like, normally in a movie like this, there would be that guy. Like, there would be that one big ass cop that looks like Ivan Drago or something, and it's like, oh shit, this is the one that can fight. And then they go back and forth punching each other. And it's like, da-da, oh no, I hit him. Da-da, dramatic music, da-da, we struggle around, we fall on top of the car smashes to pieces, but we're okay because we're awesome. Like, normally a movie like this has that fight. And it just wasn't like that, man. It's just very believable.
In the rain.
Huh?
No, you know where that scene would have been in this movie?
What?
It wouldn't have been at the end. It would have been when they were trying to escape the courtroom after it was on fire, but the sprinklers going, but it was on fire.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not getting out of here.
Yep. And it would have been that one badass looking cop, the one that's always in the background, and the sergeant's telling him, Langdon,
the guy that's got
go over here and do this. And he's like,
abs. The guy that lives in bumfuck Louisiana, but he's got 12-pack abs and 0.8% body fat somehow.
Yeah, somehow he's just raw. And there would have been a scene with him and the girl, and he would have lifted her up by the collar, and she'd have been like, oh my God, his power. And he'd have been like, you better listen to the police. It just would have been, those seeds would have been in here.
But Justin, you are kind of pushing the date back to like closer to 1984.
Am I?
Like with some of that, you're pushing the date back a little bit with that. Like, you gotta listen to the police. But that you're getting a little 80s with the action movie stuff there.
Maybe that is more 80s than 90s. But I was reaching for 90s, but maybe I went a little too far back. And the big cop would have beat him up in a scene before, In
the 90s, that guy's silent.
Yeah.
He's just wearing the sunglasses and just standing there always.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I said his name's Langdon. His name's Langdon, though. He's just standing there,
That's fair.
Come on, Langdon. Yeah, and he's like, those glasses, he's just like, walks. I just think that would be that
it's
guy.
It's night and he's still wearing the glasses.
Yeah.
I get it. I get that.
And then they get broken, Terry hits him later.
It's broken, then he goes and takes him off.
Yep. Now he's really pissed. I don't even really need these. More fighting.
Were either one of you surprised that Don Johnson's character didn't say the N-word? I kind of am.
I didn't think about it, but yeah, I guess that is kind of, it would have not been that surprising.
He might have thought it a time or two, though.
Yeah, but I'm just surprised that his character didn't say it, because I feel like that's another thing they love to do in these movies, especially when it's a southern town and a black person. You just have that one cop that keeps saying the N-word or keeps using other euphemisms or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's real coded language.
People
if
like
it was
you.
Tarantino, then it would have happened.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah. if it'd
Tarantino
been
wrote this movie,
Tarantino.
Don Johnson's character would have said the N-word every other one.
Or he would have just played Don Johnson's character.
Well, no, he would have been the deputy that was saying it all. So
That
is what Quentin Tarantino, he wouldn't have made himself the chief, but he'd be deputy number 4 that just says it all the time, regardless.
Yeah.
Not even like, even whenever Terry's like, they're not even talking about Terry. He's just saying the N-word constantly. Yeah, that's Tarantino's character. I just feel like I've seen Don Johnson in a Tarantino movie or something like that where he just says it. And I'm not saying it's his fault. He's, whatever he was, he's acting, whatever, that's the script. But like, I just feel like it. And so I was just like, I really hope I don't see Don Johnson do that. I feel like I will, but I hope I don't. That'd be nice. And to be fair, we didn't. So that was good. We're kind of growing a little bit. We're growing a little bit. Any more thoughts about this, guys?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook. We're cinema_slayers on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd. We are Cinema Slayers pod on TikTok and YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. Really help us out. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Ochoa for our theme song and logos, respectively. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends, and most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Aaron Pierre. It's eyes.
Yeah, they do. No, you can say all of them.
Okay.
It's fine. Remember, we here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, pro naked. We are also pro justice for Chris and Terry. Isn't it Terry? Todd. Yes, I'm sorry. Todd. We're pro justice for Todd, and we are pro justice for all those wonderful stunt people out there. Like in this movie. There's a lot of stunt people in this movie. I hope they got paid well. I hope they got taken care of. I hope they got some real good catering. That'd be nice. You, Cinefans, you are enough. On a more personal note, I just wanted to say I really was hoping I would never have to do this, but I kind of have to. Got a little worried about Henry Kissinger last week, guys.
Oh no, why's that?
Oh, the ground was kind of disturbed near his tomb, and I was kind of worried that there was some necromancy shit going on. So far, he's still dead, but just want to make sure I give you guys the most current news. I've been playing it cool, playing it silent for a while. Figuring, hey, he's staying dead. I won't update all the time, but felt like it was something worth mentioning. But we can still just hope that he stays dead.
Way to keep an eye out.
And do what I can. And just remember, guys, as always in this podcast, the YouTube videos and the TikToks, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is Best Picture winner.
Langdon would be the kind of officer they would send to try to resurrect Kissinger.
Cinema Slayers.
I didn't hear the end of that. I just heard Langdon would be the type of officer to
resurrect Kissinger. He would be the one assigned
Langdon
to that to try to go out there and do. He would be the one.
No justice for Langdon.
Doing the necromancy and all that stuff. trying to resurrect him.
You seemed a little caught off guard by my update, Heather.
I was. I just didn't know where it was going.
It's very serious and very important to me.
Yes.
I take my duty very seriously.
I could see that. even like a year later, maybe a year later, when you started all of it.
Hey, my work will never be done.
That's true.
So. All right, I'm done.